cabinet minister. He glanced over his shoulder. I had suspected the presence of a colleague at his back. Now I was assured. He put his hand up to his mouth, and I thought how exceedingly discreet he looked in his trousers and his stockinged feet, and with his hair all rumpled, and his braces dangling behind, and his nightshirt creased. "Well, sir, I have received instructions not to admit the police." "The deuce you have! From whom?" Coughing behind his hand, leaning forward, he addressed me with an air which was flatteringly confidential. "From Mr. Lessingham, sir." Possibly Mr. Lessingham is not aware that a robbery has been committed on his premises, that the burglar has just come out of his drawing-room window with a hop, skip, and a jump, bounded out of the window like a tennis ball, flashed round the corner like a rocket. Again Matthews glanced over his shoulder, as if not clear which way discretion lay, whether fore or aft. "Thank you, sir. I believe that Mr. Lessingham is aware of something of the kind." He seemed to come to a sudden resolution, dropping his voice to a whisper. "The fact is, sir, that I fancy Mr. Lessingham's a good deal upset." "Upset?" I stared at him. There was something in his manner I did not understand. "What do you mean by upset? Has the scoundrel attempted violence?" "Who's there?" The voice was Lessingham's, calling to Matthews from the staircase, though, for an instant, I hardly recognized it, it was so curiously petulant. Pushing past Matthews, I stepped into the hall. A young man, I suppose a footman in the same undress as Matthews, was holding a candle. It seemed the only light about the place. By its glimmer I perceived Lessingham standing halfway up the stairs. He was in full war paint. As he is not the sort of man who dresses for the house, I took it that he had been mixing pleasure with business. "It's I, Lessingham, Atherton. Do you know that a fellow has jumped out of your drawing-room window?" It was a second or two before he answered. When he did, his voice had lost its petulance. "Has he escaped?" "Clean. He's a mile away by now." It seemed to me that in his tone, when he spoke again, there was a note of relief. I wondered if he had. Poor fellow, more sinned against than sinning. Take my advice, Atherton, and keep out of politics. They bring you in contact with all the lunatics at large. Good night. I am much obliged to you for knocking us up. Matthews, shut the door." Tolerably cool, on my honour. A man who brings news big with the fate of Rome does not expect to receive such treatment. He expects to be listened to with deference, and to hear all that there is to hear, and not to be sent to the right about before he has had the chance of really opening his lips. Before I knew it, almost, the door was shut, and I was on the doorstep. Confound the Apostle's impudence! Next time he might have his house burnt down, and him in it, before I took the trouble to touch his dirty knocker. What did he mean by his allusion to lunatics in politics? Did he think to fool me? There was more in the business than met the eye, and a good deal more than he wished to meet mine, hence his insolence. The creature! What Marjorie Lindon could see in such an opusculum surpassed my comprehension, especially when there was a man of my sort walking about, who adored the very ground she trod upon. Chapter 11. Recording by Alan Winterowd. Boomcoach.blogspot.com